Good afternoon, Trinidad and Tobago and the rest of the world. My name is Tyrell Ordain. This is a message to all die-hard West Indies cricket fans, not only here in the big Caribbean islands, but also in the smaller islands and the rest of the cricket world who follow West Indies cricket too, just like how I am. I'm from Trinidad and Tobago, and no matter what happened, win, lose or draw, I still care about my cricket team. However, what if I told you that I'm absolutely fed up, flustered, angry and disgusted to see what has happened to the West Indies men's cricket team? And I don't care if it's the test match team or the limited overs team. I do not like what has happened to West Indies cricket for a very long time, and this dates back to the late 90s till now. I was born in April of 2002. That same time in April of 2002, West Indies had a formidable batting lineup, which included the great Brian Charles Lara, Shivnarine Chandapal, Carl Hooper, who was captain at that time, and there was Ramdhara Sawan, who all was absolutely brilliant. Then in the opening combinations, there was Chris Gayle and Wavell Hines, who I thought was absolutely explosive. One was devastated, one was fire and ice. In between, there was openers such as Darren Ganga, Devon Smith, the list goes on. And then there was also Marlon Samuels in the middle order, who at that point was in and out of the team. Then later on in the 2000s, there was Dwayne Bravo, who was a handy all-format all-rounder at one point later down in the 2000s before shifting to limited overs cricket and franchise cricket full-time. If you compare that batting lineup to the current crop of players, which in my view are absolutely poor compared to the ones they've had in the 70s up till the 2000s, early 2010s. They're absolutely poor, the ones that I'm talking about, minus two of the current players. The ones before the 2010s and the 2020s were an absolute treat to watch. Here and there in the 2010s, they were average. But in the same era, coming back to the 2000s now, in the 2000s itself, the bowling attack at that point had the likes of Mervyn Dillon, Fidel Edwards, Ian Bradshaw, Jerome Taylor, Ryan King, Corey Collymore, and Tino Bess. Some were good, however, some like for the likes of Tino Bess and Ryan King, they were mediocrity. Compared to the current crop of bowlers we have in 2025, if you look at the likes of the two Josephs, Azari and Shamar, they're brilliant. Even Jaden Seals, he's at the top of his game currently. Justin Graves, he's coming along as well. If you look at the current bowling attack West Indies has compared to the ones in the 2000s that were good and bad at the same time, the current bowling attack, in my opinion, with due respect, they are absolutely brilliant. There was a time in the old days where there was one network that used to air a lot of classic cricket matches from the 70s, 80s and 90s on television, where West Indies used to rule world cricket and had legendary guns and had legendary goats in the likes of Sir Viv Richards, Lance Gibbs, Collis King, Derek Murray, Sir Andy Roberts, Alvin Kalichuran, Sir Clive Lloyd, who was the captain of the West Indies team that won the two World Cups in 1975 and 1979. He was the real ringleader that led a group of men to England where they won the World Cup twice. It could have been 3 in a row in 1983 had it wasn't for Kapil Dev and India. Those were the good old days where there was the best West Indies side ever produced. And there was great bowlers such as Joel Garner. There was Malcolm Marshall, who was the best fast bowler ever produced. As I mentioned also, Andy Roberts, who I also called out earlier on. Those were the guys that used to bowl way over 90 miles an hour. Long before there was restrictions where in the late 80s, 90s, when what was it called then? Back in those days, West Indies' fast bowling lineup was absolutely lethal. If you look at what's going on now, it is a disgrace to see what's happening. The 70s, the 80s, and even the early 90s was West Indies' greatest years. If you look at the current crop of batsmen that played against Australia, which concluded day before yesterday, I'm talking about the batting lineup on the whole. The bowlers obviously aren't the problem. The batting department has been an issue for a long time. Why I mentioned that the Josephs, the Seals, the Graves are all splendid, because they are absolutely brilliant. They have a good bowling coach in Ravi Rampal, even though he was mediocrity during his career. He's giving back to the bowlers, and he deserves a big pay compared to the other coaches in that coaching department. If you look at those batters, such as Craig Bradford, who shouldn't have never played 100 tests with that low average, which is in the early 30s. Roston Chase, who the hell made that ball-headed guy the test captain in the first place? He had a disastrous series and has not played any test cricket for 2 donkey years. For 2 whole years, he was out the test side. How the hell they put him as captain? John Campbell was the next one who didn't play any tests for a while too because of doping ban. He came back, had a poor series. Kesey Carty was given a long go at number 3. He was dropped for the last test. I don't know what was the reason for that. He himself is an all-format player just like Shai Hope. And talk about Shai Hope, he also had a bad series except for 1 good inning. The problem is the mindset of the West Indian batters. The mindset has been a long time issue. If you look at the 2010s, the 2020s, they were the worst. Average but worse. We'll never know the reason why they underperformed like this, but 27 all out was a disgrace. They all were no-show. They were disappointed in all 3 tests. If you look at those couple of players who I'm going to mention now that was dropped from the last previous World Test Championship cycle. Look, for example, Kaveem Hodge. Would he have made a difference in the test team had he retained his place? Yes, he would have been, because he scored runs against England. He did struggle a bit against South Africa and Bangladesh, but could have been given a longer run. Same thing too with Alec Atenes. They all were tried, tested, had good runs, then would drop. If you look at Tevin Imlach, who played those 2 tests in Pakistan, benched for the entire series. He came in because Joshua De Silva, who had a long run for the last couple of years, he was dropped from the team due to poor form, both behind the stumps and with the bat. And speaking of Imlach and De Silva, they were the 2 that were the top 5 leading run scorers in the regional 4-day championship of 2024 and 2025. As I've been saying on social media, throughout the test series, Jaden Seals, the 2 Josephs, Azari and Shamar, along with Justin Graves, who in my opinion, one of the finds West Indies has found in the all-round department, have been terrific all-round with the Dukes, even the lower order scoring more runs than the top order. The problem that the guys are going to have is with the Kookaburra when they go outside of the Caribbean. But will they still perform? Who knows? We saw them perform in Australia where they drew 1-all in that last test at the Gabba. All that could have been forgotten now, and the same stupidness has happened again. What I meant by Justin Graves becoming one of West Indies' finds in the all-round department, he has been a brilliant replacement for Jason Holder and even Kyle Mayers, who have fallen off the radar with the selectors due to involvement in franchise leagues, etc. Coming back to the legends now, I've mentioned over and over the 70s, the 80s and the 90s. There was no franchise cricket. There was only test cricket, regional cricket, county cricket, and even Sheffield Shield too. All those greats who I mentioned before the current crop, all made plenty contributions in the all 3 formats I mentioned. Plus, it was always country and island first in the old days, long before T20, etc. Yesterday, let me get to yesterday now. Cricket West Indies President Kishore Shaloo, in a statement, called on the chair of Cricket Strategy and Officiating Committee to convene an emergency meeting to review the recent test series that concluded against Australia, in particular the final match where West Indies in the second inning were bowled out for 27, the lowest ever total in the history of test cricket. And the statement Kishore Shaloo put out goes as saying, like every West Indian cricket fan, I felt the pain of our recent test defeat to Australia. The result hurts deeply, not only because of how we lost, but because of what West Indies cricket has always represented to our people: pride, identity, and positivity. There will always be sleepless nights ahead for many of us, including the players, who I know feel this loss just as heavily. But while disappointment is natural, we must not allow this moment, to define our journey. He went on quoted as saying, we are in a rebuilding phase, steadily investing in the next generation and reigniting the spirit that has long made West Indies cricket a force in the world of cricket. Progress is rarely straightforward. It takes time, perseverance, and belief, especially in our most difficult moments. The road ahead will test us, but I have faith in the talent and commitment of our players when they apply themselves. We have seen encouraging signs, particularly with the ball. Our batters are keen, but now must even more deliberate as they work to improve. Now is not the time to turn away. Now is the time to stand even closer as a people. These are the moments that shape us. As an immediate step, I have advised the chair of the Cricket Strategy and Officiating Committee to convene an emergency meeting to review the recent test series against Australia, in particular the final test in Jamaica. To strengthen the discussions, I have extended invitations to three of our greatest batsmen ever, Sir Clive Lloyd, Sir Vivian Richards, and Brian Charles Lara. They will join past greats, Dr. Shivnarayan Chandapal, Dr. the Most Honourable Desmond Haynes, Ian Bradshaw, who already serve on the committee. This engagement is not ceremonial. These are men who helped define our golden eras, and their perspectives will be invaluable as we shape the next phase of our cricketing development. We intend for this gathering to be to result in tangible, actionable recommendations consistent with my message over the last weeks. This is a moment that calls for collaboration, not division. We need everyone on board: fans, players, coaches, legends, and administrators, if we are to truly move forward. There is much work to be done, but we must do it with purpose, and we must do it together. Since the late 90s, 2000s till now, we have been hearing this same thing. We have been hearing the same thing over and over and over. What has come out of these committee reports from the past? Nothing but the same set of crap that happens on the cricket field is what is happening off the field too. We do not know. We do not know because they always like keeping things confidential. Look at domestic cricket, for example. Every time when players perform on the domestic scene, first class or 50 overs, they are being overlooked for mediocrity. Even the standards of the Caribbean Premier League, from what I was told by a friend of mine from the subcontinent, has declined, and all this talk that Darren Sammy has been saying about data this, data that, Mr. Sammy, with due respect, it isn't working, sorry to say the least. Excuse me. Furthermore, I want to add, you're not even a red ball coach nor chief selector. You were put there ahead of mentors to attempt a similar brand to England's baseball or Pakistan's Aki ball. But what we saw against Australia was none of that. It was a set of annihilation cutters. Talking about franchise cricket, especially CPL and IPL, that'll be it for another video, guys. Till now, we the cricket fans in the Caribbean continue to suffer from the same set of shippiness. And will that ever change? In the words of one of my church pastors at St. Teresa's Roman Catholic Church in Malik Barataria, or should I say all the churches across Trinidad and Tobago and globally, Lord hear us, Lord graciously hear us. Will this ever change? Only time will tell, and we'll never know. Until then, my friends, this is Tyrell Ordine signing off. Be good, be cool, stay frosty, and we'll continue. Bye for now.